Hello, marriage champions. I am so happy to have Al and Autumn Ray here today. They founded the nonprofit organization MarriageTeam in 2006 out of their experience coaching couples. MarriageTeam trains marriage coach couples and matches them with peers. The confidential two-on-two program has proven nearly 90% effective even for couples considering divorce. The Rays have completed the Western Seminary Transformational Coaching Program, are a certified marriage enrichment leader couple, and seminar directors for Prepare Enrich. Alan Autumn, thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, let's talk about MarriageTeam. I wore my jersey today. This was my son's in 6th grade in homage to what you were doing. So I would love for you to describe a little bit about what it is and how you got there.
Yeah, well, let me start and then Autumn can fill in. We started in 2001 as a church program, and we had been working with other churches. And in 2006, Autumn actually had the idea, after some prayer time and everything, to form a nonprofit so that couples could be volunteering for an organization and being managed as volunteers by an organization, because often the churches weren't using the couples that were equipped. So by doing this, it enabled us to equip many couples to be active in marriage ministry as marriage coaches, and actually have a program to follow up and support them in that process.
Yeah, and what we found after doing the first few years was not only that our couples weren't being used in the church, but we got a lot smarter about the types of people that could be coached and how to do the training for coaches. And we really became experts in working with troubled marriages. And I can remember in the beginning getting a little bit of pushback about working with couples on the brink of divorce. And people saying, no, the ordinary people can't do that. And so we just took that to the Lord and we said, if they can't, would you please let us know early on here so we don't waste our time and we don't waste your time. And the Lord showed us that, no, his people can help his people if he is in the midst of the work.
Well, I love that. And as we talked, you described how you came up with the curriculum, from taking the training that you had in different ways and gleaning it together. And actually, I love how you encapsulated it in this book, that you took kind of the Dick and Jane, an homage, and called it Rick and Jane Learn to Listen and Talk, the first step to intimacy. And it actually looks like it has little stick figures and very simple language, but it packs a powerful punch. It really unpacks your communication skill tool in a way that anyone could use. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what's in this and what someone could find, how this kind of encapsulates what MarriageTeam, how did you start to train?
Sure. And it's interesting. We used that book for a while. We taught a graduate course at Multnomah University, and that was the textbook. And we got a lot of comments about, are you kidding me? This is the textbook. But then when people read it, just like you said, that they saw that it really had a lot of value and was very practical. And they came to the same conclusion that you did, is that, wow, while being simple, it was really straightforward and to the point. So when we wrote the book, what we were trying to do was to capture what happened very early on in the coaching process, where we teach communication skills. But just teaching the skills, people know them, but they don't apply them. So this little story about Rick and Jane and their coaches sort of shows how they fall back into their old patterns. Their coaches correct them, and that there's that give and take. So it's a way of showing that while you may know the skills, applying them is what's going to make the difference. And the nice thing was that we actually put the skills in with the self-assessment, so people could do the self-assessment, make the agreements with their teammate, and see what kind of results they got.
That's what we found early on when we put the curriculum together. And you mentioned that our background helped us to put that curriculum together, because Alan and I didn't really have a great relationship ourselves. And I tell people that we went to everything that had the word marriage on it, trying to get our relationship on track. And it was I know there are other people out there. I know our marriage champions out there know exactly what I'm talking about too. It's very sad when you're a Christian and you're in the community of Christians and you know that your relationship is not glorifying to the Lord. And that was one of the things that I guess was a catalyst for us to move towards helping people have better relationships. And as Alan said, sitting there with the knowledge wasn't enough for us. We couldn't make the transition from the knowledge to putting it into action. And that little book that you showed is exactly how coaches help a couple not only learn the skill, but then put it into action in their own relationship to see immediate change and lasting change.
Well, and I love too how you said that God really gave you the idea to use a team concept. It was simple. It was something that would appeal to men as well as women. It wasn't, super fuzzy and pink and fluffy. But then also I loved how even this book starts where the man and the woman, they're not winning in their team. Maybe it's a newly married couple. And you talk about bringing a playbook from your original family of origin. You want to expound on that? Because that made a lot of sense to me. And I think that would really appeal to a man, because it's not judgmental. It just says, this is the facts.
Yeah. So seeing as how you put it in the context for a man, let me start and then Autumn can sort of add to it. But yeah, what we found is that people had their old habits. And as we thought about a team working together, being on the same page, it struck us that there was a good analogy with a playbook. So when you're growing up in your family, you learn what it takes to survive in that family and thrive. So you develop your communication skills, you develop your expectations about what's right and wrong, and you learn how others handle conflict or problems and what their reactions are. So that becomes sort of your background, your playbook for how you're going to address life. You get married, you become a young adult, you get married, you create a new team, but you each bring that playbook with you and they're not the same. So your expectations are different. You think you're on the same page, but you're talking past each other. And pretty soon things become that you could live with now become annoyances and you're starting to have real issues. So what coaches do is they help couples develop agreements, i.e. new plays on how they're going to work together to achieve the results that they both want. And it's that simple, but it's easy to say, but it's hard to do.
And I always like to give the example of one play. Believe me, I had many plays that didn't work, but this is one play that I brought into our relationship. And it says, if Alan loves me and cares about me, he'll know what I need and want. Well, he didn't have that play in his playbook. And so consequently, he could not read my mind and he did not know what I needed and wanted. But that simple belief, can you imagine what that can cause if your husband or your teammate doesn't know what you need and you want? It translates into he doesn't care about me and he doesn't love me. And lots of women I have found out when I say that was in my playbook, they go, yeah, but they haven't learned what to do with that play. They still have it. So that's what the advantage of working with a couple coach is.
And it really gets down to that's a belief. I mentioned it's a belief, but until those beliefs are challenged by somebody sitting across from the table and are asking, what do you think's behind that? How well is that working for you? What would you like to see happen differently? And they start to unpack that belief. And then the person comes to the realization that the belief is not serving them well, and it might even be faulty. Then they're ready to move on and they embrace making new agreements and they recognize that they have been contributing to the relationship that they have. So that coaching process and helping people to unpack that and really understand it is huge.
And I love in the book how, and in again, as the book is that just an example of their whole process, how the coach instructs or coaches the teammates to just write down a different phrase that's the key word instead of that wrong or the play that's not working. calling an audible, coming up with a new play, writing it down, agreeing, oh, this is what I'm going to say. You agree that this works for you. And then when you get into one of those little sticky places, you can just say, oh, honey, here, this, remember I said that we agreed that this was the phrase I would use. And then he could say, oh, yeah, you agreed, or vice versa. And it's so neutral and it makes so much sense. It takes all that conflict and angst out of the interaction. That really resonated with me. And I thought it would resonate with a lot of people as well.
And that's what our coaches report, that it does resonate, because when people understand those simple concepts and they start to apply them, it makes a world of difference in their relationship.
I was just going to say that what you were talking about, we call that a relapse play.
Yeah.
Because when you learn how to do something correct, or you sit in a seminar and somebody tells you how to do it and you go, oh yeah, I can do that. The reality is you can't. You get out of there and you go back and you do the same things that you've been doing. So the relapse play is what your teammate can help you do what you want to do. So your teammate will say, hey, whatever they decide, remember you promised to listen for understanding. And it sounds like you're getting defensive to me, or whatever. They can make up whatever words they want. And then that's what the person responds to. And that's what you were talking about, was a relapse play.
Yeah. I just really liked that.
Yes.
Well, as we've talked about that book, and I do hope people will order this and use it in their ministries and use it in their lives and give it to their newly engaged nephews and, things like that. I also would love to talk about how you coach the coaches, because that's a big part of Marriage Team. What you personally do, right, is how you manage all that and kind of take that burden away from a church.
Yeah. So first of all, we equip the couples, and that's 24 hours of training. And in that training, they not only learn the skills in the coaching process, they actually practice it, because it's when you actually do it that you really learn it. So we have trainers in the breakout rooms with them that are looking and watching and giving feedback, so that when they finish the training, 95% of them say that they feel adequately equipped to coach another couple. Doesn't mean they might not have a few concerns, but they feel they've been equipped because they understand the material, and the material gives a very good roadmap on what to do. But nevertheless, when you start coaching a couple, things come up, and there, you'll see that the couple's not making progress. So when they call the office and share what they're observing, because we have experienced people in the office, then we can ask them, well, what have you seen? What have you told them? What are the results? And we can brainstorm with them about approaches that they could take in the next session to try and get back on track. So it's very helpful having, coached over a couple thousand couples, that, we have that background. So there's nothing new under the sun, and, we're able to help equip them. So we take even rookie coaches, and with that kind of support in the background, they can be extremely effective in dealing with even very stuck couples.
You do the training. You used to do it live, but I know at least the last few, you've actually been able to do online to really reach a broader audience. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And so we just finished a training in October, and like 6 different states were represented. And we even trained a couple in San Antonio that found us online and came to the training, and were equipped. So they're going to be coaching.
And you also provide a lot of support for your coaches. And I know you keep some really great statistics. Do you want to talk about your data, how you can say, 90% of your couples, or even the most difficult couples, report improvement?
Right. So, yeah, we give evaluations to all the couples that complete, and based on their results, what they self-report, we base our statistics. So we ask, were you contemplating divorce before you came to coaching? Are you still contemplating divorce? How would you rate your coaching experience when compared to other things you've tried? What was your coaching experience like on a scale of 1 to 10? So we collect all that information and compile it so that we can share the results with people, because as people are looking at the ministry, they want to know that it works. And And we believe in evidence-based practices. So we're trying to collect the evidence that would indicate that the program is effective and that people can trust that if they're following that process, they're going to get very similar results.
You know, you mentioned that their marriage improves, but actually that 90% is from people who say, yes, we were contemplating divorce. And then after coaching, they say, no, we're no longer contemplating divorce. But it's way more than that. They're no longer just not contemplating divorce. Their lives have been changed forever. They are transformed. And Alan and I started thinking about it once. So that's right after coaching. So then what happens to people, you know, in the long term? Because we believe that God is a God of transformation forever. And that's what he wants for his people. So we went back and had an independent group do a study of what happened to our people after coaching several years later. And Alan can give you the statistic on that.
Yeah, they showed that the communications improved by almost a factor of 2. And the conflict resolution skills had improved by a factor of 1.5 over what the baseline had been before they went through coaching. And couples self-report that, you know, their satisfaction with their relationship is up roughly 7% over the long term over what it had been when they immediately finished coaching. So once people get it together and they can use those skills over a long period of time, they're satisfied with the relationship. They like what they've become, and they're doing better.
And a lot of those people come forward and then decide that they want to become coaches too.
That's true.
And what an easy on-ramp you have for marriage champions to connect with you, be trained, whether it's something in their past that is now inspiring them to help others, or just others with a heart for marriage like you all, who it's an easy way to get trained, correct?
Absolutely.
You know, even in the training, we do an evaluation of the trainers. We say, what was your relationship of the people going through the training? We say, what was your relationship like before the 2 weekends started? And then what's your relationship like after the 2 weekends? Because they go through a mini coaching. And what is the statistic on that?
Well, we say on a scale of 1 to 10. So couples nominally say that their relationship was a 7, and the average is it goes to an 8.1 or something like that. But 7 to 8 is 1 point on a 7-point basis. It's a 14% improvement. So we see actually it's about a 15.5% improvement, and that's based over, you know, probably 1,000 some evaluations. People report that as an average improvement from their training experience, not even going through the full coaching program, but just learning how to be a coach.
And when you have that stronger marriage, then you are participating even more, you know, that you bring that to your church, which is where I want to go next, because you wrote this book as well to help unpack your process and what MarriageTeam can do for a pastor for a church. And it's very highly recommended by several pastors on that, as just being as a real good on-ramp and a real easy way for a church to really fortify their marriages in their church without a huge investment of time and money. Let's talk about this a little bit. Tell us about what's in here and how it can help the churches.
Sure. Our desire is to support whatever the church is doing. We don't want to replace anything. We're not trying to say that, you know, what you're doing isn't good enough. You know, whatever the church is doing, what we want to do is offer the opportunity to equip people to be marriage coaches so that those coaches can help serve not only couples in the church, but also couples in the community as evangelical outreach. Because when you're meeting people's needs, that draws them in. And there are a lot of people that are hurting that are not going to pick up the phone and call a church, but they will call a nonprofit, and then they get connected with a Christian couple, and the Christian couple can share with them and invite them to come to church with them. So it's not only a program for helping strengthen Christian marriages, but also as an outreach to the community to help other couples as well. But again, we're here to serve the church, and we want to come alongside. And the way we can do that is by equipping couples to provide a very good service that pastors can use for helping struggling marriages in their congregation. We also have pastors that use it for premarital. So there's an awful lot involved with the premarital, and pastors want to meet with a couple a few times, but they may not have the time to spend 12, 14 hours spend with them building skills that they'll need in their relationship. Whereas the coaching process can augment whatever they're already doing with skills that are going to help the couple be successful.
We talk a lot about skills, but another part of what we do is discipleship. The materials that we have are all Christ-centered, principled in Christianity. And we read the Bible, and our coaches are all Christians, but many of the couples who come to us are not Christians. So I think that's one of the things we offer a church. You can ask people to be evangelists and to be disciples and then disciple afterwards, but it really takes a lot, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. This is a built-in evangelistic discipleship program for married couples that helps them grow closer to the Lord, helps people know who Jesus is in the first place, and then helps Christians grow closer to the Lord. So I would like to just offer that to pastors or churches too, is that if you want evangelists in your congregation and people who know how to disciple a particular group of people, then I would just like to offer this.
And also, Family Life, our materials have been vetted by Family Life as being biblical, as being practical, and as moving people closer to Christ. And Family Life recommends MarriageTeam to churches as part of a marriage ministry program. So we're really excited about that opportunity. And we're actually going to be participating in a couple of weekends to remember here locally with just information for people.
That is great. Too, I've heard it said, and I've written some about that even people who aren't necessarily Christians, like you said, one place they know to reach out for help is to call a church.
Right.
And that's one way, a pastor can get a call and it's not someone from their congregation and they don't really know what to do with them. And they can refer to MarriageTeam. And not only, tell me what you do, not only do you set them up with a couple, but you refer them back to the church, correct?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
One of our guidelines, it's not written in blood, but it's a guideline that we go over with couples when we first meet with them, is to participate in a church of your choice during coaching. And couples who come to us, even kind of lapsed Christians, we will say, did you call a church that referred you? Then that's a great church for you to go to during this time. And then we can reach out to the pastor and we can say, this couple is committed to going to church. Do you have outreach system to meet their needs right now? Yeah. So it works both ways.
I think that's so wonderful. And another thing when we talk about churches, because too that this can be done, if there's a coach couple in town, they can meet together. But so much of this now can also be done electronically. And this has allowed you to reach out confidentially to perhaps people in the military or missionaries or even pastors who don't necessarily feel comfortable, unpacking all their dirty linen in front of their commanding officer or their mission board or whatever. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you have a really neat outreach to missionaries.
Yes, we do. And we have partnered with an organization in Central and Eastern Europe called Josiah Venture, and have equipped couples there to be coaches for their other missionary couples. And they're actually starting to do it with some of the, the people in their local churches, the nationals. We've also coached couples that are missionaries that find out about us in Kenya, for one, in Central America and the Philippines. So we've had coaches that have coached those missionary couples in those countries. So it is a very effective way for helping somebody that might be otherwise isolated. And with the technology, they can have face-to-face coaching with a couple that's a Christian couple that they can initiate on their own just simply by contacting MarriageTeam. Or if they have a missions organization like Josiah Venture, they can develop their capability to provide those kind of services based on the training and the materials that we provide.
And we have coached many couples and many pastors and leadership couples in churches for the exact reason that you said. They don't feel as comfortable going to people that might know them in their own community. And we've heard so many stories of how it not only transforms couples, but it transforms families. And then many of the churches, when you say about radically, the book we wrote, Radically Restoring Churches in Your Marriage, it radically restores churches. It is amazing because the skills you teach for a marriage relationship are skills that you can use with other people in the church. And that was something that we didn't know was going to happen, but we've had so many pastors come back to us and say, oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe our board meetings now, or you wouldn't believe people who are volunteering, coming out to do things because they're more comfortable in their own relationships, and now they can give back.
And they have the skills about the listening skills. So they're much more apt to say, well, did I get that right? Is this what you meant? And what else is there to that? So they're going to be a better communicator based on the skills that they've learned through their marriage coaching.
And conflict resolution is another one.
Absolutely. That too. Right.
And the problem solving. I mean, we have people say, well, we have a problem in our church, and so we're going to take out this method and walk through it because we know it works. And everybody is familiar with that method because they've been through coaching. And so it's just a normal thing for them to do.
Now, I know, Al, you have a distinguished military career, so I'm sure that you can imagine how this might be a real benefit too for somebody in the military who really has a hard time if they access, help. They're worried.
Yeah, I think that I do think the military has made a lot of progress in supporting that. I was Air Force, but I know the Army has a real strong family program, and they really encourage people to, take initiatives. But for those people that do want to be confidential and, work on their relationship, MarriageTeam is an excellent resource to use. It's extremely affordable. It's effective. It's personal. It's done in their home if you're doing it with video. And, so it really does meet a lot of those needs for, just keeping it private and working on the marriage.
I love that. Now, I know you did mention too once that sometimes there are some of those hard problems that aren't appropriate for coaching. And you have a vetting program to recognize that, don't you? Just to make sure that you're safe and effective.
Yeah. There are some things that just we have learned over the years are not, coachable kind of topics. And one is abuse. And that goes all the way from emotional abuse to, the domestic violence, the more severe cases, but also mental health issues. If a person's bipolar or even ADHD or depressed, coaching is not going to be able to address that adequately.
Non-medicated.
Yeah. Now, if they get medicated and they're being helped, then coaching can be helpful, and they can agree on skills that will help to mitigate and improve their relationship in spite of those other things that are going on. But if they're not getting the medical help that they need for the underlying, then coaching isn't going to change the underlying issues. So it's addictions, abuse, mental health issues, active affairs where people are not willing to put an affair on the side and focus on the marriage. A coach couple can't work with 3 people in a relationship. They got to want to focus on restoring the relationship. But those things aside, people can be very stuck. They can have divorce papers in hand and really be angry with one another, and coaching can be effective for them.
Well, and I love that we talked about you have an intake process that is part of MarriageTeam to help identify so then nobody's spinning their wheels. And a coach couple also doesn't have to feel worried that there's some sort of ticking time bomb that they don't know about. They know that when a couple is matched with them, to begin coaching, that they're ready, that that the coach is prepared, and the couple has been vetted, that they are somebody who has good potential, very good potential for them to move forward and really be helped.
The other thing about the intake process that we provide at our office, which was another surprise to us, the Lord has given us surprise after surprise after surprise in this marriage ministry, is when people call us, they're ready for some change. So when people call us and our intake personnel determine that coaching isn't the best thing for them, they will find a referral resource for those people. And because they're ready for change, they follow through and do that. We've had so many pornography issues where men will then go to a men's group and the wives will go to women's group. We've had alcoholic issues where people will start 12-step program. We've had abuse issues where the men go to get some compassionate help for their issue and the wives go for support. It has been an amazing thing. So even if you don't know whether you could be coached or not, call MarriageTeam because our intake people sort it out for you.
I think it all goes back to what you talk about, God being in the business of transforming marriages and relationships. And you're there to, with your process, to help that along.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure visiting with you and helping share more about what you guys are doing at MarriageTeam. It was just great having you.
Well, we love the opportunity to talk to you and that you've offered the opportunity. So thank you in return.
Yeah. No, it was a great interview, Amy. And, we really are behind all of the initiative that Sammy's doing to make marriages better. So thank you so much.
It is our pleasure. And Marriage Champions, if you want to find out more about the Rays and MarriageTeam, you can always find us at samarriage.org.